Well, welcome. Certainly for old people like me, we grew up in Milford when party lines on Water Street were still there and you had to hope that your neighbor wasn't listening in, to flip phones, to computers, to a new day and age. And more importantly, our children have grown up with such a wealth of opportunities because of technology. One of the biggest changes has been actually the digital revolution at the school system. And one of the people who's leading it is here with us tonight to give us an update on what's going on. And we put a large amount of money into certain initiatives, and we want to see what we're getting out of it. So why don't we start with an introduction?
Well, thank you. Self-introduction? You
Self-introduction.
Me. I'm Matt Joseph. I'm the Director of Digital Learning, Innovation, and Technology in the Milford Public Schools. This is my third time on the show, so I know we're hovering at 6 viewers, as I heard, so hopefully we'll kick that up at least 1 or 2. And entering in my second year in the position, and it's been an unbelievable ride, and it's been fabulous to be a part of this team that is moving in the same direction. And I don't want to over-metaphor the conversation, but when we are all on the same page, rowing in the same directions, we are making some serious strides in not only in the classroom, in vision planning, and really looking at the next steps. We're not planning for tomorrow, literally tomorrow, we're planning for the future and moving forward with an idea of where to go. Because if there's not a goal to reach, you're just kind of spinning your wheels. And I think that's been the most exciting part for me, is being a part of this and working with our administrative team, Dr. McIntyre and Craig Consigli and Lucy and Jen Norjanian, and really having that cohesiveness, because I think we all bring different things to the table, and from that we're learning and growing together, and then doing the work with the principals that are in the building, as well as, you know, we're doing a lot with We Love Milford, or I Love the Milford Schools. We're trying to brand what we're doing. And at some point in the discussion today, talk about how other communities around us and in the Commonwealth are now coming to see what we're doing with instruction. And I think that's a goal that I know the school committee wants, I know the finance committee wants with the money that's been contributed, but more importantly, that's what families want for their kids. They send 4,000 kids through those doors every single day. And our responsibility is to ensure they enter a safe environment and ensure they have the best education possible. And for me, for the 18 months I've been here, I've just been thrilled, motivated each day to keep moving forward.
Now, all of that sounds wonderful, but for people my age, a lot of them sit there and say, huh? What does that really mean to the children?
So what does it mean? And I know we have about 45 minutes. I could go on a 3-hour keynote. Our role in education is to teach children how to think for themselves, how to solve problems, how to be critical thinkers, how to communicate. It's not teaching them what to think. And I think that's a big shift that we're seeing in education today, is that some of the things that we're doing, and in my realm, in the digital tools and ideas that we're providing, is we're really trying to give students an opportunity to show what they know in multiple ways. And I think that's been a shift. I know for myself, I'm not a great writer. I struggled with spelling and grammar. I mean, I was at Boston College for my doctorate degree, and I would go into the writing center.
We won't hold that against you, that you went to that other Jesuit school.
Thank you, that's good. So I would go into the writing center, and I'd still look for some support. But I'm able to show things that I know in a different capacity. And that's what we're trying with students, because learners learn differently, and they're also showing what they learn differently. So I think, you started saying what's different or what does it look like for students. We're giving opportunities for students to show what they know in the way that's comfortable for them, to take in information the way that's comfortable for them, and as well as giving educators a toolbox that is now expanded. So it fits an instructional strategy too, because I was a 3rd and 5th grade teacher, and I see 20 3rd and 5th grade teachers here, and they're all different, and we're all different as instructors. So we want to provide tools that support instruction and support learning.
And I think that's the key, because when people hear we spent $600 grand on Chromebooks, this is not something that we give like you give a 2-year-old, hey, keep busy, watch a video.
Correct.
But it's only a tool.
Absolutely.
If we had stopped and we bought these great Chromebooks, and stop there, we wouldn't really have anything, would we?
We'd have $600,000 worth of machines. But it wouldn't have taken us any further than just being able to say we have it. The novelty would wear off very fast. And I think what we did gain from that is opportunities. And then it was on us, and speak for me, it was on me to ensure we had training, we had opportunities, that I continued to read what's out there, go to professional development opportunities, and bring that back to Milford as well. So that was the first step, and an unbelievable step, and we are very thankful for that.
Being absolutely mean, why do I need you? Not you personally.
No, of course not.
But your position, why does the town need a focal point of electronic program development?
Well, because I think it's more than electronic program development. I think it's an educator within the schools. Before I came to Milford, I was a principal for 11 years. And within that time, went through the other Jesuit school, Boston College, and earned my doctorate degree in educational leadership. So why you need me, and we'll take even the Matt Joseph out of this, why you need an educator in this role is because I'm able to communicate both with students, teachers, and as well as central office. I'm able to be visible within all the schools. I'm able to lead the professional development. I'm also able to speak teacher language. There's a lot of districts that have technicians, which are absolutely critical and valuable to a district, but if they are leading the department, often the education side of it is kind of missed.
And Matt, that's where I'm going, because taking the personal side, it's kind of hard to say, why do you need me?
I'm okay with that.
Realistically, if we had just hired a break-fix, the best break-fix guy in the world, or gal in the world, you wouldn't get the piece that says, wait a minute, we bought these tools. We bought these hammers, these screwdrivers, to be part of a program. And the program is what's worth everything to me.
Correct.
So, I'm asking, we're lucky that if you only spoke French, you didn't speak teacher, it would be hard to get people on board.
Absolutely, and if I only spoke programming language, I wouldn't be able to have, we have digital learning class now in Milford. We have 22 of our educators coming twice a month. Sarah Boyle and I are teaching that class. We have a technology steering committee that comes and gives input and advice on what we're doing. So it's also just as much listening as speaking, but it's also the opportunity, going back to why me, to have last week I was at the Highlander Institute learning about some of the new instructional tools that are out there. And I'm not just throwing money at things. I'm asking questions. How is this working for assessment? How can our teachers use this for in 3rd grade as well as 10th grade? And I'm able to not only speak to teachers and speak to Dr. McIntyre, I'm able to speak to vendors and say, this is our need in Milford School. We have an ELL population. How's it going to support that population? How are we going to work with our special ed population? How are we going to work with our expanded learning opportunities as well as our students that are at risk? So I think you need someone like that in that position because it's an educational position. To be honest with you, the technology piece of it, you can take out. It's about leadership. It's about being an educational leader as well as an educational supporter. It happens to be in the digital realm and the technology director, but it's also the ability to speak with the superintendent down to the staff in any capacity, because we all have a role here. This is my role, and one I'm not going to give up anytime soon. Whoever's watching, go somewhere else. But it's a role that it spans essentially from pre-K to 12, and all the anything and anyone who needs support, we're there to help.
Isn't it also a process? When we grew up, I went to school, I had stone tablets, and that's what I used. But today, if the kids aren't fluent in the latest technology, aren't they at a disadvantage whether they go to a purple school or a maroon school?
Yeah, it's interesting timing for the question, because Dr. McIntyre and I were at the Massachusetts Associations for School Superintendents today, and the speaker was from WPI, talking about the jobs in computer science that are out there. And without getting into the specifics, there's about 20% of students graduating with the degree needed for 100% of the jobs that are available. And the jobs that are moving forward, agree with it or not, I'm not here to say this is how, should be artificial intelligence or this is where we're going. You have to be at least versed in some form of digital communication skills, not just texting and tweeting, but able to apply your skills as an individual, as a learner, to the digital tools that are out there, because that's the direction we're going.
So now you go to these conferences, and WPI is a school to me that, wow, they took the biotech and the high-tech initiative, and boy, you look at them now, and they offer a level of education that rivals all the technical schools. Isn't that what we want for our kids, to come out and be sought after because of what they've learned?
Yes, I mean, the simple answer is yes. That would be the way it goes, and I'm thrilled to have the short time so far to work with Principal Otlin at the high school and Cicely Tucker and Rich, that we really are talking about how to increase that programming at the high school. What courses can we launch? And that's more in his realm, but how can I support that? And really looking at, here's the skills that we need. How are we going to make it possible? But it goes even deeper than that, and I think this is the critical stage in the 3 phases of rollout, or roll up in a sense, for the one-to-one initiative. It's the students that are in the 3rd through 5th grade right now that we need to groom for those 6 years in middle and then high school, and that's how something is built. That's how you look in down the road and say, in 3 years, this is where we need to be, and we work to that. And I think that was one thing that at the time seemed like a little step. I was hired last July, and I think July 14th, they said, can you come to us with a vision plan of where we're going? And I was
You've had a week and a half.
Like, okay, I just cleaned out my office in Natick, and I drive down here, and we'll whip this up. But what that did is set the stage for a slow rollout, and I have to thank all the public officials in Milford, the school district, of having that almost blind faith of like, this is where we're going, here are 4 goals, and it's going to take us about 18 months to really get rolling. In 3 years, you're going to see us really moving. I do think we're ahead of the game on that, but I think that goes back to the question of why this position is, because there is a path, and we are going at it through professional development. We're going at it with strategic purchasing, and we're going at it with slow pilots and then full rollouts. That it gives teachers voice, it builds trust through collaboration, and families are starting to see there's some transparency. I mean, some of it, I'm getting feedback on an email today. Somebody had an issue, and I feel approachable in a sense, where they reached out to me. I called them back, and we chatted about some struggles that a student was having with the Chromebook at the middle school. And I think that's an important step in this process, that we essentially gave out this Chromebooks the beginning of October. We're talking a few months now. But that communication of people that I see and talk to and listen to, we're going to have a forum coming up right after February break that I want to bring parents back together and say, talk to me. Let's hear what you're hearing at home. What are the struggles? Then it becomes like a parenting, piece of it, of how can we support you? We're doing something tomorrow night at the community center that we're having a panel on digital citizenship and how can we support families. This is what it looks like, because we hear digital footprint all the time. Students are going online, leaving their digital footprint. I look at it different. I say, this is your digital tattoo. It's not going away. You do something inappropriate, then it's going to be there for a while. So our role is also to teach positive use.
So when you say digital citizenship, what does that mean in layman's terms?
So we, for layman's terms, in Milford Public Schools, we say we want all our online users to be safe. We want you to be safe. We want you to be smart. Safe, we want you to be responsible, we want you to be appropriate. And we want the teachers to be involved in that role and give feedback to the students. So being smart online is giving the students the strategies to say, here are the sites to go to. If you see somebody's name attached to something, give them credit. If there's sites that are not appropriate, that kids are chatting about, we find out about it, we block those sites so that our firewall doesn't allow students on there. But the digital society now is very active. We also want to encourage the positive use of it. So a digital citizen is using the tools online safely and appropriately.
And that has to go both ways, because I always read about, and it scares me, that there are animals out there trying to prey on Milford kids. And a lot of times our kids are naive. You know, they grow up in a nice environment, they trust. So it's not just doing silly things, but making sure that less than nice people.
And I think that's part of, not to continue to throw, educational ease out there, creating the psychological safe environment that students can say, I'm unsure what this is, and they can talk to the teacher. Parents can email me, that we can have those conversations, because for some time, this is new for everybody. I've never led a district of one-to-one initiative. I know what it looks like, I've read about it, I have faith in what we're doing, but this is new each and every day, and having those conversations are important. And yes, and not just Milford, there's unfortunate situations that happen all the time. But to have the conversations with students is critical, and treat them with respect, that I trust you enough to talk about it, and I want you to feel that way back, that you can kind of say the things back to me that'll help me learn as well.
I mean, when we were kids, we were taught stranger danger. It was so simplistic. Life was so easy. Today, it's orders of magnitude more complicated. So teaching the kids, one, how not to do silly things, because people forget that once it's up there, it's not going to be easy to take down.
No. Right, we say stranger danger, and then we get into a stranger's car by pushing our phone.
Right.
Don't get in a car with strangers unless it's an Uber to the airport, right? So I think it's a mind shift of then creating safe. Okay, if you're going to use a digital tool, this is what's safe. Look if it's a reputable program. Make sure it's not somebody, that's just sending you things they shouldn't see or open. So I think it is that information, and because it's changing so fast. And I think that's part of, back to the core question of why someone in this role, because my role is spending an hour or two a day reading about it, staying on top of it, and then getting that information out to staff and saying, here's some things that we can try.
And I think as parents, we worry that you're going to have the predators who physically want to go after your children. But we forget that we're bringing up this wonderful population who might let you in their car, and they go right to the parents' bank accounts.
Right.
And just teaching kids, look, there is danger unless you understand.
Right, and I think it just goes back to having that conversation, because the ease of doing things, the ease of posting on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, it's easy to do. You have a password, an email, you log in, you post something. But just because it's easy, it's not right. It's not always right. And I think that's a shift in education. I mean, there's many shifts that we're talking about. It's a shift in the conversation. It's a physical shift of standing in the back of the room, seeing what's on screens.
And again, when we were kids, let's face it, we were always perfect. We never made mistakes.
Of course we were. We didn't need.
But you call somebody a poop head or something. Okay, there were 3 of us that heard it, and that was it. Today, you do that digitally, and it could spread through half the school within milliseconds.
Yeah, do it at breakfast, it's there for lunch. And I think it's just having, working with the principals. And I've worked very closely with the middle and high school, and not that I haven't with Tim and Lisa and Seth, but I think some of that really peaks up as middle schoolers, and the curiosity of things, and having those conversations. And I talk with Noah Collins a few times a week just to say, here's what we've seen, here's what we can talk about, let's chat about how we can really work towards solutions. Because at the end of the day, the devices, the tools, all of this is for our students to learn. And we want to create that safe environment for the students to come in, learn, teachers to be in that and focus on what they want to do most. It's teach our students.
So if you were to pick one program, and somebody said, what's the one you're most proud of in the last 18 months? what would that be?
There's a lot that I'm very proud of, and I think one that we've seen a lot of growth in is I was telling you before we started, the Hawk Nation proposals. And as a principal, we'd always, we had a light snow year, so we had reserve money at the end of the year. Or, we didn't keep the lights on as much, so we have money. What are we going to buy? And I think that lends to situations where school districts buy iPads or any hardware devices, and they have them with no rhyme or reason. So our thought last year with the tech steering committee, why aren't we asking teachers what they want? Let's spend the money, but let's talk about a proposal. So we did the Hawk Nation proposal. It was open to every teacher. We said that you can put in a request for up to $1,500, but it had to align with one of our core goals. You had to give background of how you will benefit instruction and student learning, and that we'd be able to see it in progress, to see some of this, sharing what you're learning. We had 65 proposals come in, 65, and we funded about 45 of them. And teachers received anywhere from Chromebooks for their classrooms to, I know, ITS Learning. Dr. Gilmore at 5th grade teacher is doing a fabulous program. Joe in 8th grade at Stacy did Newsela, News ELA. It's a program where students to do research online, where the high school teachers had a journalism website. The kids are publishing news stories. The middle school phys ed teachers had digital pedometers so that they could keep track of different tools, student successes that they were doing. We had teachers go to professional development that we funded. It was an opportunity for teachers to say, this is what we wanted, and not just you got something, so now I want something because my neighbor had it. This is what's going to benefit my students. The principal side of me said, there has to be some accountability there for teachers. They had to fill out a proposal, send it in, and then our steering committee reviewed them all and made decision. We funded almost $15,000 in 45 teacher proposals that are in practice right now. We just had our meeting yesterday about rolling it over again this year. And having that background, again, not to keep going back to the why in this position, having the background of overseeing a school budget for 11 years as a principal, I was able to know some spending patterns, and I was able to know how a budget operates, and to say, if we can save, I know we're not buying it up front, but here's why. When we get to April, we're going to have a chunk of money left, and we're going to give it to teachers' voice, and then they come back. And what we've seen from that, not only we had teacher voice, about 4 of those initiatives now are district-wide. So because we funded one teacher for $1,500, we're able to see the success, and we've purchased it district-wide for many of our programs, and that's how we're rolling out the instructional tools. We're not just saying we have the money, good luck, here we go. We're saying, if you want it, tell me how you're going to use it, we'll fund it, and then let's evaluate it. Some work, and we go full district, some don't, and we say it was a low-cost investment.
But isn't that research?
Absolutely. It's real-time research. It's not reading in a magazine. It's our teachers who, their expertise is in the classroom. And my role, back to the role, is to support what they're doing and in turn support the students. And some worked, and just as an example of that, our EL department had a recommendation for middle school. It's called Tales to Go, and students hear stories, and it helps with word identification, sentence structure, speech patterns. So I worked with the middle school EL teacher and Ms. Norjanian. We looked it over, and for one class, I asked, well, what would it be for 2 classes? They gave us a price, and it was only $600 more to go K-8. I said, let's go K-8, and then now we all have the opportunity to use these tools, and it's because that one teacher at the middle school piloted it. So if I had to go back to your question of what's been one thing that I've been really proud of, it's giving teachers a voice, following through and purchasing it and having it launch September 1 this year, and now seeing it grow and expanding. And that's how we're moving forward in Milford. It's not willy-nilly, here you go, I like this, first come, first serve. It's purposeful leadership. How are we going to use the resources that we have? And then how's that going to impact student learning? And if both of those are on the up and positive, we're going to continue to do that. And that's how we have long-standing success in our programs.
Now, for the longest time, we had limitations, and you read in the paper how many school districts want to lay out programs, but they don't have the hardware, the tools. And I'm really happy that you haven't talked about the Chromebook. You haven't talked about the hammer or the screwdriver. You've talked about the carpentry, the program that taught. How are we doing as far as supporting these initiatives with hardware in Milford?
Just the hardware? Like how are we supporting that?
The infrastructure.
So I think just like I don't think you would ask, new principal Josh Otland come in here and talk about the books. I'm not going to come in here and talk about the Chromebooks unless there's a direct question. I absolutely want to talk about it.
No, but the Chromebook theory was that we were limited. We couldn't roll out new programs because we didn't have the tools.
Infrastructure. So what we've done over the past year and a half has gone from a district of no schools with any wireless and no student devices to 5 schools that are fully wireless. And we'll have 3,300 Chromebooks by next September 1st. We're about 2,200 now, and we're going to add 3 grades. And we were able to do that through multiple steps, starting from my first day on the job. We had a meeting with the Woodland Building Project of this is how we're going to frame Woodland, and then how are we going to have that vision to look forward to say, this is great, but we're not going to have a standalone school. Our goal is to have, in 2 years from now, a one-to-one environment, 3 to 12. How to make that happen is to essentially create a star of an infrastructure that schools are connected to each other. Because, not in a too technical of a language, you can have internet sharing, where if we have a certain amount, which we do have 2 gigabytes of traffic, if one school is heavier use, it can kind of move over.
But we started where you could look at the one electron moving down the wire.
And it was also another step that we did that was, it's paying dividends now. Everything was not connected. So we'd have one school going to the high school, then going to a different school, and then the nurse's office going to the fire station and coming back. And my finger pointing is just the internet traffic, where now it's interchangeable because we're trying to network servers and network our usage. So in the morning, it's going to be heavier traffic on our 6th through 12th graders, and as the day moves forward, it's lunch in certain places. So it's almost like
it's a balancing, like you do with
It's almost like an
high-back.
all-wheel drive car. All the wheels, even though it's all-wheel drive, it's not all 4 going all the time. It's dispensing where it needs the most traction, and that's what we're doing. And I'm not an infrastructure guy, so a lot of this is very new to me, but learning quickly that it's about balancing the usage. Because you take a school district with 0, or very few, because we did have pilots, say 200 student devices, to 3,000, you need to be mindful in how you network those schools.
I remember way back when, my daughter, when I asked, they want to lease all these Dell computers for the media center. Do we really need them? And she goes, I have no idea. I can't use the ones in the media center because they're so old they won't run my programs. And then my oldest daughter goes and tells me, yeah, these programs are great, but the internet feed is so slow that the kids get frustrated. And that was hard. I mean, it really bothered me that the kids weren't, they could come home. They got all this great technology. The fact that the daughters could use Publisher when they were little kids got me excited. But then they go to school and we don't give them the tools. I haven't heard that. Is it because I'm not hearing it, or have we gone over the hump?
I hope both, that you're not hearing it because we've gone over the hump. And because we have full wireless coverage now in all the schools, I mean, I was at Stacy yesterday, I wasn't there today, and I was on the whole time I was there. So were 1,000 students. Because we have built up a robust network, you're not seeing that. And we're moving to a lot more cloud solutions. So, I'll use the real-time example of the Prevo classroom, where they had an application, a math application, that was the DVD disc, you insert it, you put it onto one computer. And if you want it on the second computer, you took it out, you put it out. And to be honest with you, we had discussions last year. It was difficult to do because of the network. But once we upgraded the high school, we then moved from the hardware disk to the cloud-based solution of the same product. Now every computer in the whole school can access it. So those students are utilizing it in their classroom, at home, in the library, so it's not just on the one standalone computer. And I think that's where we're seeing the largest traffic and increase going with the cloud solutions. And not to digress to why Chromebooks, but the Chromebooks get us right onto the web. And we're doing a lot more with our cloud-based tools, not local tools like the Dell laptops and the Apple. A lot of their programs are on the computer, where the Chromebooks was a low-cost solution to get to the cloud-based tools.
Now, another worry people have is this will serve only part of the population. You know, it'll serve the top 10%, or it'll help the bottom 20 that need help getting to the mean. How universal is the impact on our 4,200 kids?
Well, in a short time, I think the opportunity is going to be equitable across the board. It's how we implement. And that's a big piece of my job. I'm going to own that I have to find applications, tools, instructional strategies that are going to help our struggling readers, as well as our advanced readers, as well as our EL population, as well as our special needs populations and our teachers. So the tools are there with the hardware that was provided to the students. The opportunities are there, and now it's us finding what's the right fit. And some things that are working, you can see it right away. And I think we just need to find more tools like, you know, our news program online. It ranges from 2nd grade to 12th grade. So no matter what grade you are, say I'm a 6th grade student reading at a 2nd grade level or even a 5th grade level, I have opportunity to work within my knowledge base. If I'm at 12th grade level, the teacher has a dashboard that they can assign me a project at my grade level, at my reading level. And what we're learning is how to manipulate's the wrong word of that, how to negotiate. All right, I have a class of 25. I know the levels of skill of each of my students.
But Matt, everybody, sorry to interrupt, but everybody was always worried. I got a class of 25. The teacher's going to teach to the lowest common denominator.
Correct.
So the high-end kids, they get bored, or they get sent to wash the boards, or go into the library, or media center now,
Right.
and do a project. How has this affected the teacher's ability to bring everybody?
So you hear, you know, this has been over buzzword, I know that, but you hear differentiation all the time. It's just a buzzword. We're going to differentiate our curriculum. We're going to differentiate. What that really means is we're giving teachers now the ability to assign, you know, lessons, content, assignments to individual students. So we use Google Classroom. So we're a Google environment, as we've talked about. And through Google Classroom, I'm the teacher with 25 students. I can assign each one a different activity in the same theme. So let's just, you know, if I had more time, I'd make up a better example, but let's just say it's on space, 5th grade space. I can bring my class up and say, the theme is space. We're going to use Newsella, and we're going to this group is, you know, here's 4 of you will read this passage. And you open your computer, you don't know what the person next to you has. You don't know what the guy across the room or girl across. Here's my reading passage on my appropriate level. Students who are struggling reading may have a passage with fewer words, more pictures, so that they can get the context clues, and they're reading it, and they're answering comprehension questions. What we've also purchased is software that reads to the students if they need it. Or there's extension activities built into these assignments. So if I'm a student that needs an extension, at the end it says, write your own journal assignment about space. Is there a 9th planet or not? Write some critical thinking. So we're all working on the same theme, but we're not just saying, here's the worksheet. We all fill it out. We have 5 minutes, and we're teaching to the middle, as you were saying. You all have 25 different worksheets about the same topic, so the teacher can still have dialogue. The teacher can still ask critical questions, but the students are learning at their own pace. Not like I'm not learning because I don't feel like it today pace, but at the appropriate level so this teacher can both support and enhance what the students are doing.
My daughter distilled it down for me once, where she said, Dad, as an educator, my goal, but my responsibility, is to get every kid to their potential. Now, being a special needs classroom, she said, the potentials aren't the same. They're wildly different. But if I get every kid to their potential and a little bit more, I've done my job.
Absolutely. And she's a great teacher, by the way.
But I mean, it sounds like these kind of programs support that kind of idea.
They do, and I think, we focused a lot, and of course you would when you spend $600,000, and the focus is on Chromebooks or tools or hardware, but that's the piece that's behind that. That once you give a student the avenue to online content or curriculum, and the teachers the ability to assign different assignments or navigate different ideas. We had a teacher last year, the kids, their final assignment was to make a YouTube video, a promotion video for a product that they invented. And some were grade level, some were a little below grade level, but they did the work. Some were high end, like they could be marketing students. So what it's allowed teachers and students to do is have that ability to bring the students to the potential and then push them a little bit further. It's not just an electronic piece of paper. It's not an electronic textbook. It's an avenue for critical thinking, for communication, and really extending what we can do inside the classroom.
Some of the skeptics, when we were talking about investing $600,000, came and said, well, yeah, you're going to give these Chromebooks to the kids, they're going to take them home and break them. They'll be dead within a year.
Yep.
What do you say? Here we are. We've been about a year on the first tranche.
Yep.
Is that true or fiction?
Yes, some students have broken them, but in our planning, we budgeted for about a 10% breakage. We did a self kind of program where we purchased a 10% spare so that we can have them, or if kids forget them. We're nowhere. We're in single digits for breakage.
So realistically, 90-some% of the kids have really taken care of it and utilized
100%.
it.
Let's just say there's more teacher breakage than student breakage, and we have about 1,000 student computers out there at Woodland and 1,000 at Stacy.
You would think Woodland would be the worst because they're the youngest kids.
True, but they also don't have the mobility. So third graders, they don't take them home either.
Okay.
But yes, they are younger. They have them all day long. Fourth grade moves between 2 classes. Fifth grade moves between 5 classes. And yes, there's breakage. And I would never, ever say these are going to be fail-safe. We're talking about kids. And
But books weren't fail-safe.
No, meaning breaking. Like, they're going to break.
You broke a book because it got ripped, the binder broke.
Absolutely.
Isn't it, in a naive person like me, and I look at a book, and I say, we always budgeted a certain percentage that we're going to get lost, written on, whatever, anyway.
Right.
Is it any worse with the Chromebooks?
No, because in a book, if you rip the page out and throw it out, the page is gone forever. In a Chromebook, if you break a key, we're going to replace the key. And Dan Nelson at the high school runs our student help tech team. So we have our students now learning how to fix the Chromebooks, fix teacher, they don't use their accounts or anything, but just fix any hardware, break-fix issues, printers. But if there's a Chromebook issue, each school has a student help desk. So at the middle school, if there's an issue, it goes to Steve Weber. If he can't fix it, one of the high school kids come over and they repair it. Students get a spare while it's being repaired, and when there's this fix, they get it back. And yes, there's been some that have been broken, but I can say there's been less than 5 that have been broken maliciously, and then some were just broken on accident, and that happens.
I mean, I just replaced my tablet because I think the dog did it, because nobody in the house...
The dog always does it.
Nobody in the house will admit they knocked it off my table.
Yes, so the
But
dog...
I came home and there's a cracked screen.
Right, the dog always does it.
The only one that wouldn't say they didn't do it was the dog.
Yes.
Curious question. Are the parents getting into this Chromebook initiative?
I hope a lot come out tomorrow night. I heard a lot of negative feedback at the beginning, but I think having those conversations and having an open door policy, again, that's another buzzword, but they were able to, I met with many parents to talk about it. I think some are still struggling, just like any middle school's kids. Some don't want to turn it off at home. Some want to watch TV. And it's having those conversations about when it's appropriate, when it's not. And I think parents are behind the idea of it, and now it's still really 4 months old at this point, and it's seeing some of the gains in learning how to maximize the potential of it.
Is there any plans on rolling out for the ELL parents? Because I remember when I was in school, my father had no clue. Somebody would tell him you're supposed to go down and support your child. He would put his little hat and his coat on.
Yeah, and go
and
down.
he and my mother would go and sit there because they're supposed to be there to support me. But they never really engaged because they didn't know how.
So Jen Norjanian and Braulio Rodriguez, one of our new hires for educational technology, ran a class for our ELL parents at night. So they ran 5 sessions on really just basics. Here's what computers are. And again, not in a condescending fashion,
Right.
but here's what they are, here's what your students or your children are using them for, here's what you can use them for. Set them up. We created email accounts for families who came in, for second language families. And I ran one for English speaking families as well, because I don't know any Spanish, so that'd be pretty bad. So we do have some classes that Jen and Braulio ran, and we're going to continue that.
Can we push stuff out in Portuguese, Spanish?
We have translation software, and we have all the documents that go home. We try to translate all of them into.
See, that to me is a wonderful step.
Yeah.
Because I could see my parents wanted to help, but had,
Right.
no idea. I mean, back in '41 when Mom came to Milford, there wasn't a lot of computer power out there to help her.
No.
And nobody really translated. But today, if you can reach parents like mine who say, I want to help, but I don't know how, that's got to be a good thing.
It is, and I know last year we did a survey and we translated it into the home language, and the participation rate almost doubled. So it was great.
How many languages do you have to deal with now?
I don't even want to enter the conversation because Jen Norjanian is so skilled and up on all of this. She's fabulous director of EL that I don't want to say anything that makes me look bad.
I mean, it used to be, okay, we had Irish, Italian, Portuguese, and that was enough. Now it seems like we have...
It's in the double digits.
Yeah, I was going to say, almost a couple dozen major languages in Milford.
And not in a super self-promotion sense, but we do MPS Talks right here at Milford TV, and we did one and interviewed Jen Norjanian, so check that out. She talks all about
As we're getting to the end, I'm seeing more and more use of video technology by the group.
Yes.
How's that coming?
It's fabulous. I mean, not to be the teacher's pet in here, but Milford TV has been fabulous from the day I started till now. We're on episode 36 of MPS Talks, and we've been trying to mix in some interviews, some sit-downs, taken right from your style of talking with Josh Otland and Lucy Jenkins and Jen Norjanian and Lisa White for our wellness program. There's so many great things going on here. I want people to just hear it, and I feel I'm fairly comfortable talking with people and getting that out there, and then I'm also doing some informative sessions in front of there. So we're trying. I know Dr. McIntyre is doing a superintendent update, and we're going to keep going with it, and I know Milford TV is expanding. End of February, I have my first episode in the new studio. I can't wait.
That's going to be fun.
I can't wait.
And I know you've got to go off to a program tonight.
I do.
So we've got to cut this short.
Yep.
But look forward to the next time.
Thank you.
And we'll try and schedule it when you don't have an educational program at the same night.
No, I hear you, but I'm in. I like it.
And as always, to our 6 loyal viewers, get to know what's available. Whether it's in English, Portuguese, Spanish, or the other 18 languages. There's so much that you can do to help your child maximize what they get out of the Milford school system. And I'm really happy to hear that we're no longer having the debate on we don't have an internet connection that works, we don't have wireless, we don't have tools. Now we're focusing on, in my mind, what's most important, what programs are being put in and how do the kids best benefit. So as always, thank you to our 6 loyal viewers for watching. May God bless, and may tomorrow be a better night than tonight.
Far too long since I've been home.